This is the 20-gallon tall tank that I set up in my bedroom. I set this tank up as a replacement tank for the 20-gallon tall in which I have my Endler's livebearer breeding colony and a couple of Amano shrimp along with cherry shrimp. The cherry shrimp were not able to keep the colony going in the presence of so many Endlers. Adult Endlers can devour the shrimplets, so the colony died off down to maybe half a dozen adults. So I went ahead and removed those adult cherry shrimp to a shrimp safe tank where hopefully killifish left some viable eggs behind and maybe getting some fry in that 10-gallon tank. Before adding shrimp, it's a good idea to have a tank going for several months so that biofilm can cover all the submerged surfaces where the shrimp can graze constantly. And this tank has only been set up for about 6 weeks. But since I'm only going to have 2 Amano shrimp in the tank, and I can feed them sinking wafers, and they also devour the detritus left by the Endlers, I think it'll be fine to go ahead and switch these tanks out. In anticipation of doing that, I went ahead and removed the hardscape. So now I'll drain both tanks so that I can move them without damaging them, and refill the tank. I've made sure that the glass canopy has no openings through which Amano shrimp can escape. In the past, I've had Amano shrimp escape from the smallest hole in a glass canopy. I don't want that to happen, but I've had both of these Amano shrimp for several years. I think it'll be fine to go ahead and move them. Here's a look at the tank from which I removed the adult killifish about a week ago. I haven't noticed any fry yet, but I am adding vinegar eels to the tank on a daily basis so that they'll have some fare once they absorb the yolk sac, if there are any. I believe there will be. There's loads of Java moss in the tank, and also a packet of peat moss. I was successful in getting some fry in a 5.5 gallon tank with just some peat moss in a tank with a gravel substrate. But for now, I'm putting all my adult cherry shrimp into this tank so that the shrimplets will be safe from predation. Here's a look at the current 20-gallon tall Endler's livebearer breeding colony. It's a pretty good setup. All the inhabitants are happy in this tank. But since there's a lot of leftover brine shrimp monopoly, I want to ensure that all the fry are well fed. It does have a problem with blackbeard algae, and because it is an unheated tank, it's not suited for true Siamese algae eaters, which is the only species I know of that really takes care of that problem. Although I did trim the plants, you may see some blackbeard algae still among them. But the main reason I'm switching out the tank is this tank does leak about the rim when I top it off, and it's not possible to fix that unless I break down the tank and seal it on the inside when it's dry. So I intend to do that once I get the inhabitants switched to the new tank. Hopefully I won't suffer any losses, and the 2 Amano shrimp will have plenty of fare in the new setup. Switching out the tank was quite a job, but I took my time and don't seem to have had any losses of this Endler's livebearer breeding colony. And after a couple days, the Amano shrimp seem to have calmed down and settled into their new environment. Some of the stem plants in this tank weren't doing all that great, so I've gone ahead and added some Rotala rotundifolia to the center of the scape to help fill it in. And it's a fast growing plant, so I should be able to propagate it by pruning the tops, along with water wisteria on the left and Hygrophila corymbosa cherry leaf variant on the right. In a short while I should have a nice jungled out effect to this scape.